I'm right now at 99% in Israel. I could run for prime minister. So maybe after I do this, I'll go to Israel, run for prime minister. I had a poll this morning. I'm 99%. So that's good.
The president of the United States bragging about his popularity in a foreign country. I'm 99% in Israel. Unmentioned is the fact that he's 35% in the United States. 35% support from Americans, the people he pledged to represent, to fight for, whose side he promised to take in every conflict, foreign and domestic. And yet there he is, bragging about how popular he is in a foreign country. The same country that got us into the war that is causing, to some extent, his unpopularity in this country. Speaking of cold-hearted globalist betrayals.
Listen to what Trump says here. He is not talking about how much support he has from American workers. He is not talking about veterans, families, the poor, the middle class, or the people who actually put him in power. He is bragging about being 99% in Israel. And that is the contradiction Tucker is exposing. What happened to America first? What happened to the promise that the United States government would finally serve its own people first? In this moment, Trump sounds more proud of being loved by a foreign country than being trusted by the Americans he promised to represent. And that is what should make every American ask, what about us? What about workers drowning in rent, debt, medical bills, layoffs, and broken promises? What about veterans, families, teachers, nurses, farmers, and everyone who believed America first meant their lives would finally matter more than donors, lobbyists, and foreign policy interests? Tucker says this was not just one careless comment. It was part of a much deeper betrayal. And the next clip is where he connects that betrayal to Epstein, secrecy, and the people Trump promised to expose.
And the actual answer may be that Donald Trump is covering up for exactly the people he was elected to expose. So that was the moment. Well, apparently, Thomas Massie didn't get the memo that is totally off limits. Talk about whatever you want. You can make fun of Kamala Harris's teeth, but you don't talk about Epstein, because the whole point of the Republican Party is to make sure that we don't talk about Epstein. Isn't that right? Isn't that why he became a Republican? Thomas Massie didn't get the memo, and he started saying in his kind of autistic, forthright way, what about Epstein? I want to know about Epstein. And rather than just brush him off or blow him off or ignore him, Donald Trump fixated on him and began to hate Thomas Massie. And in a move that may reveal what the Epstein story is really about, he made common cause with some of his biggest donors. Those would include Paul Singer. Paul Singer, a liberal who is somehow one of the biggest donors in the Republican Party, and John Paulson. And, of course, Miriam Adelson.
This is where Tucker goes from disappointment to accusation. He says the real possibility is that Trump is protecting the very power structure he was elected to destroy. That cuts straight into the heart of the MAGA promise. The promise was not just rallies, slogans, and red hats. The promise was exposure. Drain the swamp, open the files, break the two-tier justice system, show the people what their government has been hiding. But Tucker says when Epstein came up, Trump did not sound like a man ready to expose the machine. He sounded angry that people were even asking. And that changes the whole story. Because if America first means anything, it should mean Americans have the right to know who was protected, who had influence, who was compromised, and why the truth keeps getting buried. Now, this is not just about Thomas Massie. It becomes a much bigger question. Who is being protected, and why? And once Tucker raises that question, he moves to the man who refused to stop asking it.
And of course, the answer is because Thomas Massie was willing to say out loud that there is an Israel lobby. There is a foreign country whose supporters in the United States, in positions of prominence, are making campaign contributions purely on the basis of what's good for a foreign country. Their loyalty is not to the United States, it's to a foreign country. Well, that's just true. It's just a fact. But you can't say that. Why can't you say it? Well, because it's true. That's why. If it was a lie, if you were claiming the earth was flat, they'd ignore you. But precisely because it is true, it's the truest thing. In fact, it's the definitive fact in American politics. You're not allowed to say it. And he did. Now, why do we say that's true? isn't that an anti-Semitic conspiracy theory?
This is the center of the entire argument. Tucker says Thomas Massie was punished because he said out loud that there is an Israel lobby, and that powerful donors and organizations shape American politics around the interests of a foreign country. That is the forbidden sentence in Washington. Massie was not destroyed because he had too much power. He was destroyed because he exposed where power actually lives. And whether you like Massie or not, this is the bigger issue. If an elected representative can be crushed for asking why American policy does not put Americans first, then what kind of democracy is this? American voters are told they have power. They are told their votes matter. But the second someone challenges the donor machine, the money floods in, the attacks begin, and the message becomes clear: obey or be removed. Tucker says Massie named the machine, and Washington made him pay for it. But then comes the receipt. Because after Massie lost, the same lobby Tucker is talking about did not hide in the shadows. It celebrated.
So in other words, AIPAC is saying out loud something that if you said out loud might get you fired from your job or investigated by the Trump DOJ, which, by the way, has just announced a multi-city anti-Semitism tour led by Leo Terrell, the chief of anti-Semitism enforcement or something, a Fox News contributor with, I think, 11 IRS liens against him over more than 10 years. A guy who's sort of wonder, like, how'd you get into federal service if you have a problem paying federal taxes? We'll leave that between him and the IRS. Maybe he'll get his own exemption from IRS audits. We'll see.
Celebrated Massie's defeat. That is what makes this moment so powerful. The same influence people are punished for noticing was openly confirmed by the people exercising it. Tucker's argument becomes very simple. They tell you it is hateful or conspiratorial to talk about lobby power, and then the lobby itself announces victory when a critic loses. If it is not real, why celebrate it? If it is not influence, why spend millions? If it is not power, why does everyone in Washington act terrified of crossing it? And again, the question comes back to the American people. Who is celebrating when your rent goes up, your hospital bill destroys your savings, your town loses jobs, and your tax dollars keep flowing into wars, weapons, occupations, and foreign priorities, while American families are told there is never enough money for them? America First was supposed to mean American workers first, American veterans first, American healthcare first, American infrastructure first, American children first. But Tucker's argument is that when the choice came between the American people and the donor machine, Trump chose the machine. And that brings us to the most explosive moment of the entire video. Because Tucker does not say Thomas Massie simply lost a race. He says something much bigger died with him.
Works. And no, it's not a democratic system. It bears no resemblance to a democratic system at all. A small number of people who are more concerned about a foreign country than our country decide who gets elected. No, that's not a hateful conspiracy theory. That's a demonstrable fact that they admit. So it's on the basis of that that we can proceed. And by that, I mean the truth. That's the truth.
Tucker says this is the death of MAGA. Not just the end of one congressman's career. Not just another primary, not just another Washington power play. He says this is the death of the movement as people understood it. The death of the Republican Party many voters thought they had elected. The death of the promise that America First actually meant America First. Because if Tucker is right, then this was not just a race in Kentucky. It was a public demonstration of who really controls the party. Billionaire donors, foreign policy lobbies, Epstein's silence, and a political machine willing to crush anyone who refuses to obey. And the tragedy is that millions of Americans believed they were voting for a revolt against that machine. They believed they were voting to put their communities, jobs, families, borders, wages, healthcare, and future first. But Tucker is saying the movement was captured, redirected, and sold back to voters as theater. The anger was real. The pain was real. The betrayal was real. But the machine remained standing. In conclusion, Tucker Carlson's argument is that Thomas Massie's defeat exposed the real power structure inside Trump's Republican Party. The story is not just about one congressman. It is about billionaire influence, Israel First lobbying, Epstein's silence, and the collapse of the America First promise. Tucker is saying MAGA voters were sold a movement that promised to fight the machine. But when Massie challenged that machine, Trump and the donor class helped crush him. And this is bigger than Trump, bigger than Massie, bigger than one Kentucky race. This is about whether American democracy still belongs to voters, or whether it has been auctioned off to billionaires, lobbyists, foreign policy interests, and political machines that treat ordinary Americans like props during election season and disposable after the votes are counted. So the question now is simple. Was this the death of America first, or the beginning of a much bigger revolt by Americans who are tired of being lied to, drained, distracted, and betrayed? Drop your thoughts in the comments, like this video, share it, and subscribe to Progressive Wave.